Hot.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Metal Lab. Today we were originally going to do our Earth X piece by piece review, but the snow has decided to make my internet connection particularly unstable. So at the risk of losing a very valuable, very long, possibly episode, we will avoid doing that this week, and we're actually going to do it next week because that's also when Earth X comes out. And we can actually give a full review of this set in better conditions, as it were. When we tried to start the episode originally, when I hit the start stream button, my internet connection just died immediately, so the stream didn't officially start. So, technical issues aside, here we are. We're going to talk about our experiences with the set as far as pre-release week is concerned. I know myself and Mike went to a pre-release. Jay, were you able to hit a pre-release this week?
I went to 2.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. I kind of dropped this on these guys all of a sudden because things got wacky with the internets, as it were. But other than... we'll talk about our pre-releases in a second, but how has your week been other than the pre-releases? Mike?
In terms of HeroClix, it was pre-releases.
Yeah.
I had no other opportunity. Weather was not great last Wednesday really either, so I avoided our sort of weekly clicks practice, and yeah, that's it.
All right. And Jay?
Pre-releases were the sum total of it. I did not have a chance to otherwise. No, wait. Did I practice on Emily? I think I did practice on Tuesday with Emily.
I believe Emily said that you guys practiced.
Yeah, that was this past Tuesday. I already said I was going to play the David Gasselman Undying team because I was basically playing with most of those pieces except I hadn't used the mini, so he basically finished the team I was already working on. So I'm playing exactly that, and it was good, although I did make one change which didn't matter with playtesting against Emily specifically, but I did want the Joker ID because it stops Perplexity Unimind. The Christmas Joker can randomly in-cap a Watch Out of Death, theoretically. And I already have the Ha Hacienda map bonus, so that Joker card will also get the +1 attack, so that seems pretty good. So, yeah, it was fun to playtest that.
All right. Awesome. Myself, I did a whole lot of sorting and a whole lot of staring at HC Realms trying to plan something. What happened was, from Worlds, we had yet, and we're talking back in November, right? We had not yet put away everything. And I'm talking all the stuff I brought, all the backup plans I brought, all the meta stuff I brought. That was all still sitting in the containers I traveled in. So I went through the painstaking task of putting all that stuff away, and then resorting figures. And then I started looking at... I'm starting to do that thing where it's time to start looking into rotation up ahead, see if I foresee any figures kind of finding their way back into the metagame, and if not, start kind of recouping some of the expenses on the chases and the higher rarity stuff. Because I'm kind of... it's how I level my collection. Also, all the drawers are full, so it's time to start planning for that. Other than that, like I said, or like we all said, I spent a lot of time sitting here staring at HC Realms in plans for this weekend for the charity tournament over at Eternal Games. They're running a memorial tournament for a family who unfortunately lost a very young man, and we're helping to support the family in obviously the best way we can, playing HeroClix. I did arrange a ride, assuming nothing terrible happens. So I will be arriving on the Saturday along with one Mr. Tom Kerr. And I plan... I know it's a competitive environment, but I'm probably not playing a super competitive team. Though my mind might change depending on whether or not I think I can come up with something that can at least fight against the metagame, because that is a big challenge I'm running into. So that's kind of what I've been up to this week, other than the pre-release. And I know myself and Mike were at the one at Comic Warehouse. And Jay, which locations were you able to hit for your pre-releases?
CBA and Chaos in Markham.
That being Comic Book Addiction and Chaos Collectibles.
Yeah.
And I also went to the Comic Book Addiction pre-release yesterday.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So you guys have a lot more to talk about that, because I only went to the one pre-release, unfortunately. But of course, I touched some of the product already, just haven't played with it much.
Phrasing.
So, no intended phrasing. All right, so Mike, tell us how did you fare in the pre-releases? How did you like it? How did you pull?
Well, I'm excited for this set. I like this set. Spider-Man family sub-theme, really. Spider-Man villains. I love Spider-Man, and I love those characters, so I'm super stoked for that. Love that there's a Sinister Syndicate trait, much like that Secret Six one. So was excited for this event and was hoping to get some stuff. Now, it's always funny for me, pre-releases, I'll be honest. What I like about a pre-release is, one, I usually do pretty well in sealed, and two, I have no attachment to winning in a pre-release. There is usually no prize support in a pre-release other than maybe getting to buy more product. And since I know eventually I'll get to buy product, there's just... It's the most free I can ever play this game, other than playing casual. So I really always just hope to pull something obviously of value. Knowing that down the line I'll get a case, pulling anything rare or less means the odds are high that I'll just double up those figures when I open my case. So that's where my brain is at when I'm at pre-releases, for good or for bad. So what ended up happening was I initially was not very happy when I opened my packs and pulled nothing better than 2 rares, and the other 9 or 10 players at the table that I was at all pulled super rares somehow. So it was it felt a little rough to start, but I didn't. What I pulled was some not bad stuff. There's some really interesting stuff in the set, and in fact, there's a lot of really useful stuff in the uncommon and rare slots for sealed. So what I decided to do is I decided to build a theme team. I built an Earth X theme team and was 16 points underbuilt because I felt that the theme was going to really work out in my favor. I had 5 figures, so I had +5 to map. I went with King Britain, President Osborne, Fancy Dan, Spider-Man, and Red Union Jack, because that's the running shot, energy explosion, +1 damage when you're using energy explosion. Not bad team. Actually worked really well together, way better than I actually thought it was. King Britain, you really actually have to play him very aggressive, because you want him to be the guy who's the most forward, because then everybody on your team gets a +1 to their defense, and he's already got 18 with Impervious. The other thing I added to my team actually was I had pulled the Alistair, is it Smythe? I've already forgot. Alistair
Smythe.
Oh, yeah, I pulled him, so I actually played the object, the Spider Slayer bot thing, but without him, and I had Captain Britain pick it up. So now I've got a guy who's got a 19 defense with Mystics, Impervious, and Super Senses on a 6. So he really became much more of a beast on the map. I immediately pushed Spider's Man to get to Perplex, because honestly, he doesn't have much other purpose. With the 4 range, you're rarely getting an opportunity to pull off that range attack to activate that special power to negate free actions. There's not a ton of characters in the set who are doing a lot of free action stuff anyway, so really he was just another figure for Prob and to get that Perplex, right? Lucky for me, President Osborne rolled leadership relatively regularly in my first game. My first game was against Sharif. Sharif's team was Stegron, Gorgon, Spider-Man, and I'm sorry, I can't say his name any other way.
You can't not.
No, right? And Ezekiel. So it was a pretty good team. I liked the team. Everybody sort of more laid back against these pre-releases, so we won map, or he won map, and he just kind of didn't care. We just played on the map we were on, which was actually an old retired map. It was the Fear Itself South African map, which has just got some elevation changes. I really took advantage of positioning. He came up the map and he was using Ezekiel to put up that free barrier and using some of the existing blocking to sort of protect his team. But he had them right at the edge of an elevation change. So I just beefed up my red Union Jack. I used the perplex on his attack. I had a couple of my guys in position, including some of the hired flunkies who can actually use theme prob because they all have Earth X.
They get the keywords.
That's right. So I made sure that I hit with an energy explosion attack from the red Union Jack, which hit everybody on his team. Took out a couple of dinosaurs. It crippled his team, and after that, it was really just charging in with an object from Captain Britain and just continuing to do the same thing with the energy explosion. Dice were mostly in my favor, only a couple of bad rolls, so it was a pretty easy match. And also, I had Fancy Dan, the rare Fancy Dan, and I made him the bodyguard for President Osborne because, I mean, come on, 12 attack, 4 damage on a running shot for 6 range with precision strike. It's pretty big.
He's so good,
right?
Like, those two guys together were meant for each other.
Absolutely. So they were perfect together and sealed. So my team had a lot of damage output because of King Britain, Fancy Dan, and that +3 energy explosion. So my first game was a pretty easy win for me. My second game was against Rory, who has a longtime player, but he's actually kind of retired from the game. But I was really happy to see him come out and decide to play some games. Great player, great guy. So we had a lot of fun in our game, a lot of joking around. He pulled some of those Sinister Syndicate figures, so he decided he wanted to make a 6-figure team to do that, and it was Lizard, Electro, Silver Sable, Montana, but the better Montana, the one that does the running shot, 11 attack. He's got shape change and he ties you all up. The Earth X Montana, and Ezekiel and Karnak. So he had a great team. He had the values there. Electro is pretty scary. I used my hired flunkies, obviously, to sort of protect my team and hide in the little bit of hindering that was there. We were actually on that old Incredible Hulk set map. This was at Comic Warehouse. In Comic Warehouse, we know this, but people watching at home may not know this. They've plaqued a lot of those old maps, so they're nice and solid and hard, and they're good to play on. So a lot of times when we're at these events, especially if it's an event where the map doesn't matter, people just play on those ones, which is why we were ending up on all these retired maps. So anyway, I used my guys to sort of protect my team. He got some hits in, but Captain Britain came over the top and really laid waste to people. And again, Fancy Dan, man, that +3 ESD, he's now got an 18 defense with super senses. It's so gross. So, but it was a tighter game for a while there. It was a bit of a back and forth. A lot of great positioning. He had me kind of scared, and I had to get lucky that he decided to sort of be a little more aggressive, and he missed on an attack, and I was able to capitalize and pick apart his team. And then my third round game is against this guy I've played against a couple of times. He's all right. He can be a little bit obnoxious sometimes when you play him. He's got this weird laugh.
I hate you so much.
So, named Mr. Jason Collins. And Jason's team again, of course, I remember it was Triton,
Yep.
Luke Cage,
Yep.
President Osborne, and Fancy Dan.
Yep.
So I had the bonus to map roll, but I think I actually lost. And funnily enough, we were on the South Africa map again, which is fine. It was totally good. It was really a mirror match because Jay and I were doing the exact same thing with the pairing of President Osborne and Fancy Dan, because why wouldn't you? I started off early getting the rolls in terms of popping out those flunkies and some of the early attacks. Jay missed on a really good opportunity early on. And then about halfway through, it switched right back the other way. And Jay started making all the hired flunky leadership roles, and I was missing them. A couple of missteps on my part where I came around and I'd forgot about the +3 to Fancy Dan's defense, even though I'm playing a Fancy Dan. It's that kind of thing, right? It's all new stuff. So it was very much a back and forth game. Hits and misses on both sides. I remember it being very close, and it came down to points on a whole last.
It was 100 to 80 in your favor.
Yeah, there you go. 20-point game. So I went 3-0, which is great. But I finished second overall points because Devin, who we know, been on the show before, Devin Owens, he went 3-0 as well and managed to have more points.
Yeah, because Devin needs a prime vulture in a sealed event to.
Right. Yeah, Devin, who was part of the Team World Championship, great player. Yeah. He pulls a prime vulture. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
How's Comic Book Addiction?
Comic Book Addiction was great. Love Comic Book Addiction. Man, I wish it wasn't in Whitby. I would go there probably all the time. Love that place. Love the people who run it. Love the layout. Everything about it just sort of feels right for events. So... Again, as I mentioned, how I feel about a pre-release and what I'm looking for in a pre-release. There was a small part of me that was doing all the Schrodinger cat quantum mechanics stuff of like, oh god, if I open 2 more rares again, I might implode. So open my boosters, and I actually pulled super rare Gorgon and Chase Venom pool there. So...
reverse luck on that one.
Exactly. So I feel pretty good. Obviously, overall, 4 boosters so far. 1 super rare, 1 chase is a pretty good deal. I can't complain about that at all. The team I ended up building, I couldn't make theme. I might have been able to, but it just kind of wasn't quite working. And I knew I needed to have President Osborne on my team again. Because I'm sorry, I think President Osborne is so good in this format.
So amazing.
That stat boost thing is so great. However, asterisk, I screwed up in a couple of my games and had him make Black Panther the bodyguard, forgetting he was 90 points.
That's more than 75.
Yeah. Thankfully, it was not really... It didn't really affect the outcome of the games. I was winning my games because dice were squarely in my favor. I had all the positioning. I was using him more for outwitting originally and having Gwen jump over the top. Defensively, though, I did use it on his defense. So to be fair, unfortunately, I skewed the results totally. And all my opponents, too, were all like, yeah, sure, that makes sense, la, la, la. This is the stuff that happens sometimes, guys. I'm sorry about that. So I went with the Venom Gwen pool. You got to play a chase when you pull one. The 90-point Black Panther, 50-point President Osborne. Oh God, who else did I have? I think I had Spider-Man again. Did I have Spider-Man? No, I had the other Spider-Man. The I should start drinking Ensure and go on a diet Spider-Man. And God, I had one other figure now, and I've just forgotten it.
Ox.
Thank you, Ox. Good job, Jay. Jay knows because Jay and I ended up playing at some point in time. So my first round game was against Ryan Hickey. He is sometimes the judge at CBA, not for this particular event. He ran the Iron Man Super Rare. He had the Hydra, the generic one, but the female-looking generic-y one or whatever. Cop at 30 points, and King Britain. So, again, being a friendly game, I pointed out to him, dude, make sure you keep King Britain forward as much as possible. Give everybody +1 defense. It's a good strategy. Unfortunately, my dice rolled really well. I had all the positioning. I was using Black Panther's outwit to get rid of just the right things at the right time to prevent him from retaliating on me much. I kept my team very clumped together, using the hired flunkies to carry Ox and Norman Osborn sometimes, and then they're carrying each other sometimes, as well as they can carry Black Panther, because I gave Ox Earth X through the new boss every week trait.
Yep.
I picked Osborn. He got Earth X from Osborn. Now he, using Underworld, can carry Black Panther around. So basically all my guys can carry each other except for Venom Gwenpool. But using Spider-Man to do that free leap climb, well, not free leap climb, but, you know, leap climb and then tether somebody over there, I was keeping Gwenpool in the middle of everybody every time, so they would always have ESD, right? Because as long as she hasn't failed a shape change roll, anybody adjacent to her has ESD. So I've got guys with stealth, and then when you see through stealth or they're not in stealth, everybody had an ESD. Defensively, that's really what was the key for my team. People couldn't hit the higher numbers. So my first game with Ryan, he just couldn't make those hits. I just picked apart his team. The dice went squarely my way. So it's tough. I mean, I love playing Ryan. He's a great guy. And it's tough sometimes when your opponent just can't make anything happen and everything you're trying to do just works. And you kind of run over them. You know what I mean? My second game was against this younger kid. His name was Ethan, I believe. And Ethan's team, I'm going to do my best to try and remember Ethan's team again. I was trying to take notes. He was trying to do like a Secret Six thing, or sorry, Sinister Syndicate thing again with that trait. So he had 6 figures. He had Fancy Dan, the rare, Vulture, not Prime, Sandman, Alistair Smythe, Vulturion, and he had one other figure, and I'm sorry, I just cannot for the life of me remember what it was. He managed to pick map, and he picked the Regent Lab map, which is the other side of the Weird World map from Battle World. Can I say that I don't like that map because as an old man wearing glasses, I really struggle to see the lines on that map because of the way it's printed. It's really hard to see the squares. Yeah. And on top of that, it's actually very difficult to see which squares are blocking terrain because the like underprint is brown. So yeah. I don't like that map at all. But anyway, I basically was just using early on Gwenpool to hit the blocking terrain to make small squares of hindering terrain that I would drop Black Panther into to keep him protected from range from Fancy Dan and use him to outwit things. Putting all the hired flunkies beside, sort of in front and beside him, being stealth as well. Gwenpool's in the middle. Everybody's got ESD. He came out at one point for an attack, couldn't make the roll, and it was the same kind of deal. I just started picking, you know, boom, get this person, charge blades. The Spider-Man power mixed with Osborn being able to walk up and then sidestep back carrying people was amazing because I could charge in with Black Panther, hit somebody for 6 with blades, walk over with Osborn, and then sidestep back, picking up Black Panther and dropping him back into the hindering terrain to hide him again. My opponent, it was another dice situation. Everything he tried to roll was low. Every blades roll I rolled was a 5 or 6. So I decimated his team. And then my last game was against this guy who, thankfully it was sealed, because when he builds constructed teams, he makes these really annoying Undying teams, and then they aren't fun. And we're happy that he judges a lot so that we don't have to play him in tournaments anymore.
I didn't know Mike Payne ever judged.
So my final game was against Mr. Jay Solomon, of course. Jay's team. Jay, do you want to just tell us your team so I don't struggle in my head what your team was?
Yeah. Silver Sable taking Earth X, Spider Dad, Loki, Blue Union Jack, the one with the leadership, and then if you succeed, +1 attack to your team, and the sidestep super strength Hydra generic, so the good one.
There you go. I want to let Jay tell the story of our game because it was a very interesting game, and the end result was very interesting. And I think it'll be more interesting when Jay tells it because it was not what we thought it was going to be. So it ended the day, and I had a fun time on the day. I pulled the chase in a super rare, was very happy. I actually managed to get a prize out of the day, too. They had the Deadpool and Friends OP kit, and I got a Negasonic Teenage Warhead, which is great. Hey, a 40-point X-Men with some TK. That's not Jean Grey. I love that stuff. So, yeah, it was a fun day. And, again, I love CBA, man. Love the venue, love the people. Yay, HeroClix. And yay, EarthX. I like this set. I think it's a lot of fun.
All right. Jay.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so I went to Chaos Collectibles, I think, in Markham Friday night. I was there. Emily was there. Tom was there. I think we ended up having 7 players. So I ended up pulling the Green Goblin super rare, which was pretty cool, and a rare that I can't remember, but I didn't play it. But I guess let's just double check. What the hell rare was it? It wasn't one of the good ones. Did I not pull a rare? I must have pulled a rare that the Triton that I ended up giving to Mike after. That's what I remember. So I had a Triton rare. I played non-theme Green Goblin, Hydra generic, the Sides of Super Strength one, Black Panther, Crime Master, and Electro. So I didn't have 6 characters to start, but if I got lucky and got the pogs and I could like manipulate numbers that way, I could get the Secret Six stuff going on. So I first round was against Tom, which he was playing a Jason team where it looked like he just played every single figure he pulled. So,
do I do that?
I don't even remember if he had any rares on the team. I think he just had a bunch of random commons. No, he had Alistair Smythe. That was the one rare that he had, I think. So he played that and just random stuff. He had like an Ezekiel, other characters, main attacks. So the Green Goblin starts with hypersonic speed. Or gets at the whole dial. So map roll was kind of important because if I get the right map, like the hedge maze, I'm pretty happy. He ends up rolling, I think he rolls a 4. Yeah, there was a 4 or a 3 on map, or a 4 or 5 on map roll, and then I go to roll map roll, and I roll 1 below that. So I was like, okay. So he picked random map from Civil War, like one of the ones that was like just like a big open street, a little bit of elevated. Nothing special. Actually, it could have even been a Fear Itself one. Like it just was one of those kind of maps. And I just could not roll anything. Like I missed so many attack rolls of 6s. I had one turn where I needed a 6 for my Black Panther to kill his Karnak on his, was it the last click? It wasn't one of the clicks where, yeah, it was like the second, it was one of the later clicks. So I missed like a 6 for that. And then at this point of the game, I had Black Panther still top dial. I had Prime Master had KO'd and given him the traded shape change. So Tom was needing 9s against double rollouts, although he did a precision strike, so 6 on super senses. But he ends up just hitting both of them because he just was able to. And yeah, he just I took some points. Yeah, 100 I think. But I just could not roll a single thing, and it kind of sucked. And I was all about forgetting that game happened. And then I played against Emily. Yeah, I played against Emily, and she had King Britain, Namor, and Hydra Falcon. Yeah, that sounds right. So I'll map roll again. Oh, because she had theme. That was fair enough. Yeah, so she won map roll, and she pulled out the Iceberg Lounge just because water is a thing. So I basically ended up going for Yeah, I think I ended up going for Falcon at one point, and I ended up having, I think the Green Goblin took Mystic's damage, so he ended up on an Outwit click, and I had Crime Master with Outwit, and Emily's all charge, so I just keep on outwitting her charge and moving, and I forced Namor to come out into... I wanted Namor not in the water because although he gains poison, he's not impossible to hit. So I forced her to do that, and I have enough outwits to outwit like producers. I have enough outwits rather to outwit poison and then another power as I need it. So it was just multiple outwits against a team that has no outwit protection. It's not going to go well. So I ended up winning that, and then I played against. Oh, Cecil with like impossibly good pulls. He had, I don't know, which is, I guess first he just has Hulk, so that's already good, and then he has Black Panther, which is always good, and then he has freaking super rare Daredevil. So he has the character that's impossible to kill and will just randomly have perplex and just good powers all the time. He has Outwit, he has Name Theme, and he has Hulk. So he can actually have like 2 perplexes and an Outwit at any one time. So he hits real hard. And he wins map and puts us on Genosha. So I'm not that afraid of Hulk because I have Hypersonic to definitely get Bruce. So it's not a problem. And I like, what did I do? I like carried Black Panther forward. I was able to outwit. I preemptively outwitted Perplex on his Daredevil so he couldn't choose to push onto it. His Hulk, he went for like a big attack. Hit Green Goblin to his last click, but that was okay because it's stop click. So he still has Hypersonic, and he has the take off the glider and make the attack thing. So I basically go for... I should have Hypersonic and just shot Bruce, but I ended up deciding to go for Black Panther because he wasn't in stealth, and the Daredevil just to randomly see if I could get tokens off, but I ended up just missing them, and I have to waste the Goblin glider attack on Bruce. That kind of sucked. But it didn't matter because he also just, once he found out that I had a regen on Green Goblin, he just went for him to finish him off, so that was fine. So at this point, I think he had taken... He only took 1 or 2 of the soul tokens because he was going to take another one, but then I was like, I'm going to kill Bruce next turn, so that's probably a bad idea, I think. And then, yeah, so I kill Bruce, his Hulk takes some damage, and then he loses the soul token, so he doesn't have any of the benefits from the special power. So he's down to, like, I have penetrating damage, I have outwit, I'm able to take out Hulk, and then it's just against Daredevil. And at one point I think I rolled a crit hit. I did roll a crit hit, with a higher flunky maybe, and I just able to make enough attacks that it didn't really matter if I hit or missed, but I made enough attacks, and the roll and the crit mattered to the point where we'll need another 6, so that was good. And we ended up having more packs. I only got a Black Bull, and then Tom got a Venom Black Panther, which was really cool. And the case also had the Super Rare Prime, so it was actually, and all the Super Rares were good. So overall, it was a pretty good case we went through. And then at CBA, Mike already mentioned my team, or I mentioned my team. I ended up almost not realizing what I had going. I almost played everything except for Vulturion instead of the Hydra, but then I was like, oh wait, EarthX counts as a named keyword. So I was looking at Silver Sable, I was like, oh, so what can she take off of Loki to pull tokens off of him? I can take Asgardian. Oh, and EarthX is a named keyword. So I decided to go for that instead. So +5 theme was good. 2 leaderships on Loki kind of made up for the no Indom. So round 1, I play against Matt Ryan, who has a Hulk. He has Black Knight, so the uncommon that looks like Black Bolt. Karnak, and I think that was it. That sounds right. So I won map roll. I picked the Powell farm because it was outdoor. It had enough hindering. It was whatever. It was just a no stakes scenario. So I just pulled out whatever. I like to usually play on modern maps just to get the feel for them for competitive. So I just whatever. I move out a little bit. He moves out a little bit. Having Spider-Man to pseudo carry was really helpful. 2 PDs was really helpful in general. So I move up a little bit. He moves up a little bit. I move up to the point where he can't charge me because Battle Fury is obviously bad against Loki. So yeah, he ends up moving out 1 square out of my reach, and I don't have Perplex on the team. But then I get reasonably lucky, and I roll for Loki's trait, and I roll that each force gets to pick a character to get +1s. So I ended up just getting enough range to shoot, and he ended up perplexing his Hulk's defense twice from Karnak and the Bruce Pog, and then he picked him for the +1s. But I also had Loki with 12 and 6 because I had +1s, and then I had enhancement, so 4 damage became 6. And I had 2 PDs from Sable and Spider-Man, so it ended up being 12 on a 19 with Loki's prob and theme prob. I hit, and then Hulk's on sidestep, kind of sucks. And then on his next turn, it gets to the point where he kind of wants to take soul tokens to do stuff, but then it also kind of sucks when Bruce dies and Hulk's already hurting. So it ended up being that he had Hulk on his last click with 1 token, and with the way Steel Energy and pushing works, pushing is immediate after resolution, so you can't heal with Steel Energy first. So it was either his Hulk made a big attack, or made an attack and then died, or I just killed him anyway, so he just decided to push it, which I don't think was necessarily the wrong play at that point, because Hulk has... What's his defense value on the last click? I think it's still... Yeah, it is still 17, but still, like, he's gonna die, he may as well. So that happened. I finished off the rest of his team. He took some points, I think. He took the Blue Union Jack. I don't know, but stuff happened, points were taken. So in round 2, I played against James McMaster, who's the infamous person who got 2nd at provincials with Hellcow a couple years ago. Which, guys, seriously, how did you let that happen? The one time I'm not in town, you all...
Don't look at me, I was judging.
You were judging.
And Mike beat him, so shut up, Jay.
Mad at me. Barely.
The guy who couldn't stop him and the guy who did stop him are here.
I will say that it was barely.
Oh,
very close.
Yeah.
Point being, he had... What did he have? He had Namor. He definitely had other characters. Oh, he had Triton as well. He had he also had Blue Union Jack and the Hydra Generic. Is that it? Did he only have 4? He might have had another random character. He wins map roll and puts us on the weird world because of the water. And then the squares that are not water but look like they're water. So basically, I end up moving... He ends up moving up, whatever. I move up a little bit to the point where he can't quite get me, but I still have the ability to shoot him if he moves up at all. So he basically either just hypersonicking with Triton and just running up with Namor, because there really wasn't anything he could do, because I have 8 range or 9 range if I roll properly, or he just has very low movement charge, so it kind of ended the way it was inevitably going to, although I got pretty lucky and he got pretty unlucky. So yes, I ended up winning that game, and then I play against Mike. I obviously won map roll because I had +5 to his +0. I did the Power Farm again. I move up a little bit. You move up a little bit.
We jockeyed for position around the barn.
Yeah.
I set up in that defensive position, like, here's guys in stealth, here's all that ESD.
Yeah.
You had Ox that you could target, and you needed, like... Ox had a 21.
Yeah, you had 21 defenses, basically. I had
an 8 to hit.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't net with the energy explosion, though. What did you have with the leadership?
No,
you did it with the leadership, I think.
No, that was like a turn... No, actually, you're right. I did, because I totally
had sidestep and energy explosion.
Yeah, I totally brain farted on the fact that you had leadership on somebody else. Duh. And I was thinking I wanted to restrict your actions. I knew you could energy explode, but in my head I was like, even if you somehow hit such a high roll with 2 damage, it's not such a big deal. I had super sense. Remember we were talking the whole thing out.
Yeah, so basically, so I And so I have the Loki trait where I can reroll. It's like prob, except
Oh,
it's only for
God.
1 die for low point character. And you have, I have 11 on like 19s at the lowest. So I energy explode.
Yeah, you
almost
rolled
all your characters.
You rolled a 6,
so
4.
I rolled a 6 and a 1.
No, you rolled a 6 and a 4.
So, I rolled a 6 and a 4. I rolled high enough to hit some, but not all the characters.
Yeah. No. What happened was you hit everybody. You rolled a 6 and a 4.
Oh yeah,
we worked out the math that if you re-rolled the 4, only a 1 would be a miss.
Right.
So you're like, it's worth trying because if you rolled a 6, it would be a crit hit. The damage would be higher, and all my super sense guys wouldn't get to roll their super senses.
Yeah, because I energy exploded, bypassing your shape change on 2 of your characters, and then you also had super senses, and then you also had mastermind.
Yes. So I
did hit even with the 2, but so I reroll the 1, and then it's another 6. So
so he crit hits and he lays waste my team, crippling everything I was planning to do with my team. So I now spend a couple of turns eating hired flunkies with Venom Gwenpool to try and get her back to full health.
Yeah, but that's like your only healing. Norman's on his charge clicks. Black Panther is sidestep perplex. Yeah. Ox is plasticity reflexes, whatever. So like you move up to base me. Like you charge with Gwen. I can never break away with you because you have plasticity. I kill Ox. I realized I also missed like a 7 to kill Black Panther, which would have also won me the game. Yeah, so despite my having a lot of prob and the Loki stuff, I still needed I needed all the luck to help me out. So I basically end up taking
You took Norman,
Norman and Ox.
And
so
I
80.
Yeah, and I had killed
Spider-Man, the Hydra, and the Union Jack.
But the Union Jack, so we don't know at the time that it's the last round before last round, and I'm second player, so I go for Union Jack, and I need basically a 5 or better blades to kill him.
You needed a 6.
I needed a 6. There you go. So I needed a 6.
I missed that 6 or 7 to kill Black Panther. You needed a 6 on blades. Yeah, and I also should have just run him away. So you end up barely winning.
Well, because we didn't even know. That was what was the funny part. So now
I wasn't really keeping track.
They call last round. It's Jay's turn, and we both start doing the math, and we realize that I'm actually winning 100 points to 80 points, and he's not actually going to kill anything in that turn.
No. I think if I did it differently, because what happened is I had rolled Loki's trait to give. I pick a character for +1. You pick a character for +1s. Gwen is on her last click. I picked Sable for some reason, but if I picked Loki and I hit, but that also involves you missing 2 rollouts.
Yeah, because Gwen was up at the top. She was on second click.
No, she was on click 2. So Loki's 4 damage +1. So if everything had gone perfectly, and I killed Gwen that turn somehow, I would have won. But it didn't really matter. And you also pulled a chase, so obviously you were gonna win because that's how HeroClix works all the time, right?
Seems like it.
So it happened.
It was more funny that we were both playing and we were both really under the assumption that you had won that game until that moment.
Well, it wasn't so much that I had
last round.
We didn't think
were
that
dominating.
we didn't think that I had won necessarily by points. Like we weren't counting points, but it was just a really good matchup because I had range and you had charge. So everything. I don't think, and there was no. And the other thing was that there really was not a map that did anything for one of us, but not the other. So there was nothing really I could have done with map choice. So happens.
Yeah, everything you wanted to do in that game worked out. It was tough.
Yeah, the only thing, so Gwen's plasticity and me not having any outwit was a major thing because I could just never even risk breakaway, and I don't think I ever even rolled the phasing on everybody when I wanted it. So it just didn't work out.
No, that became the roll that kind of happened every time it was a throwaway roll, and you're like, oh great, phasing. Well, that's useless.
Yeah. But Loki was quite something. Just the prob and the pseudo prob and the trait was actually really powerful. Like, there's a lot of things that benefit your opponent, but also most of the ones that do also benefit you. So I mostly don't see a reason to not do the roll, but basically, yeah, Loki's cool.
All right.
And that was that.
Is that both of them?
That was everything.
All right. Awesome. So, like Mike said, I was there at the Comic Book Warehouse one, just the one event. I also didn't pull any super rares and chases, so I think me and Mike were the dead ones in everything. My rares ended up being Triton and Fancy Dan, who both made my team. And as Mike described, I also had the Luke Cage and President Osborn making a 4-man Earth X theme team. Yes! By accident, by the way. I just kind of threw these 4 figures together. And given there's a very high chance of making this mistake, because I think it's like 36 of the figures are Spider-Man based, and 35 of them are Earth X based between the entire set, which is, I think, a really cool ratio. Not often you get a ratio on a named set that's actually on that level of success. Anyway, I was kind of playing organizer, judge, and player for this tournament, so but you know, it's one of those situations. It's a pre-release with no real prizing, so just go, guys. It was funny because at the beginning of the tournament, somebody asked, like, "Is there any prizing for this?" I said, "You get to play with the figures early." So first round, I was up against Ross, who had a Stegron, the Earth X Captain King Britain. And sorry, it was Stegron, Clea, and he had King Britain, I think, too. I think that works out somewhere in there. Yeah. And I couldn't sympathize with the player more in my life than I could sympathize with Ross, because he needed some pretty low rolls and missed a lot of them. Like, he was missing 5s in some cases. 5, 6, and 7s were just not his number. That happens. And I couldn't roll less than 11 when I needed like 6s and 7s. It was really weird. Is this how all you guys feel when that happens? But yeah, that said, it was a pretty rough game for Ross. I was able to kill just about everything on his team. And, you know, President Osborn with the Fancy Dan is such a disgusting combination of figures. I don't even know why I kept increasing his defense when it was a range-based game. It's like, what am I doing? He gets the +3 anyway. My second round was up against a player who's regular at the warehouse, Jordan. His team, I don't remember. Oh, no, he had a Morbius. It was Morbius, Black Knight, and I don't remember what the other ones were. Mostly because it didn't go so well for him. I think this game was over in about 3 turns because I was just making effective use of elevated terrain in order to aim at his targets. I killed in a single turn everything except for Black Knight. Black Knight and one other figure. And then from there, it was just a matter of picking off Black Knight eventually. Once I got Black Knight past Invincible, the hired goons took over and did the job for me. 1 point for my team. Earth X team. And Luke Cage has leadership, which is neat because then I get to give Fancy Dan the police keyword and then get effective use of Luke Cage's leadership towards police, and that also goes to the hired goons because the hired goons get the keywords of everybody with the new underworld symbol, and because Fancy Dan and President Osborn both get it, that means I get theirs. And since Fancy Dan's getting police from Luke Cage, now all my hired goons have police, and a good leadership role, which never happened once, would clear an entire team in the right positioning. So. But it didn't end up coming up. It would have been cool. I think I rolled a 6 once with Luke Cage, and it was when he was clear for his leadership. So I think that was the best leadership roll I had with him. And I can't expect to get very many hired goons out of the odds that exist on the dude on President Osborn. But when they happen, it feels good, man. It feels good. Do not underestimate these guys that are making the hired flunkies, hired goons, because as part of the trait that they're making that with, they have leadership and mastermind, which means they're basically gaining protection shots out of the dudes that you're making with this. So, if when President Osborn's out there, I put him out there next to hired goons, so now you got to get through his shape change, and should you hit, unless it's a critical hit, you're killing a hired flunky and you're scoring 0 on that. So, but Mike described our game as perfectly. I couldn't hit early, and then he couldn't hit late on. Sorry, he wasn't allowed to attack because I was rolling some hot shape change rolls with my President Osborne.
So many shape change rolls with Osborne.
Like,
whoa, stop! I'm your mom.
It was one of these situations where it was like, you know what? Is this what this feels like? Because this feels good. This never happens to me.
I know why people don't like playing against me. I roll shape change like crazy.
Yeah, I know you do. It's obnoxious. That's why I always throw Battle Fury. And she was like, no. I play Battle Fury when I know Mike White's going to show up.
No shape change for you.
But yeah, overall, it was a pretty fun set. I played some pretty strong games, but no team looked like the game. My second round game, even though I described it as kind of a walkover, the figures were. It was like a lack of map awareness for Jordan. Unfortunately, he didn't catch that I was on higher elevated terrain. Always watch those arrows, guys, and ended up being able to capitalize on that big time. To just absolutely run a number on him, and that's positioning is important because it can take a strong team and all of a sudden make it go bleh, which is a shame when it comes down to it. But as I was saying, I like the set. The Sealed doesn't look like there's too many like bombs. There's some tough stuff, but with some of it comes down to good figure, good player can go a long way. I mean, Tom had a EarthX Daredevil and didn't necessarily do as well as he probably could have, but he played against Devin in the second round, who at one point critically hit his Daredevil. And then I think I watched Devin make 2 critical hits in a row in that same game, and I was like, why does he need critical hits? He's good enough. But yeah, my big takeaway is this is a really good Sealed set. It's not too bonkers on the on one end or another, and it does kind of reward a player who's really paying attention to what's going on with all the elements of their figures. The Rose scares me, man. The Rose makes one leadership role. Forget it. I'm not even paying attention to him. How do you feel about the set, Mike?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Nothing's really kind of come across as like a runaway figure. Like nobody's pulling anything and going, boom, tournament's mine kind of thing. It is a fun set. Definitely don't underestimate those hired flunkies. Dude, just the fact that they're an awesome taxi. Like you don't have to worry about taking the action maybe with the figure that you've got. If you place everything just right, you could have somebody who's based to somebody. Well, now I don't need to roll to break away with them. I'll just have this hired flunky who's over here, just pull him away. And as well, theme prop. It's not hard to make an EarthX theme team in Sealed. The flunkies get those keywords, and now you've got a POG that can take theme props for you. It's huge. I like the set. I really like the set for Sealed. It's playing so far. It seems like it's playing pretty well. People seem to be building, like you said, like kind of overall balanced teams. Like I'm actually seeing battles happening and people have chances and stuff. So I like the set. It's fun. It's interesting. And I think, I don't know, man. I think some people are going to pull off some interesting things with some of the new powers and traits that are coming out of this set.
All right, Jay?
I think if I had a complaint, if any, it's kind of how if you don't have named theme, it feels like a lot more of a disadvantage. Like I just feel like it's easy. It's one of the easiest sets to pull that off in quite some time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It doesn't mean you're going to lose.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. But I don't think there's that much main force prob. So I feel like if you have that against you, it's much harder.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the only reason I was able to go non-theme was because I'd pulled Venom Gwenpool, who has prob on that top click. It's the only reason I didn't build theme. If she didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have played her. I probably would have made an EarthX theme team. Theme team is huge in Sealed. We know that. Theme probs are big. Map roll bonus is big.
Yeah. There's a couple I'm looking now. There's a couple probs in the CUR, which is good to see. But yeah, there's definitely. I mean, yeah, I played against Hulk, didn't immediately lose either time. The Daredevil's annoying. There's definitely good stuff, but I don't think there's anything where you sit across from it and you are just like, oh no, I'm never ever going to win this game. That's not a thing in this set. It's really good.
There's definitely uphill battles like the Daredevil, and if the Vulture goes off, it starts to become an uphill battle. But it's not an auto loss. You can still kind of swing out a win in a lot of these cases. All right, so before we move on to questions, I want to take a second to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. If you're in the $5 or up patron category, please feel free to use that link and pop in if you have any questions for us for the show. Now is the time. So again, that's patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. We're going to start on the Facebook from the post that we posted a little earlier today, and we're going to move into the chat, see what's up with them. All right, so I generally keep Facebook closed while we're running things, and it likes to open very slowly. What happened to you, Google Chrome? What happened to you?
I know it's Google Chrome's really being a bit of a pig lately.
Well, I mean, they threw a lot of extra security a little while ago after a big hackathon they had, and that resulted in a little bit of bog down, I think, on it. I might be full of crap though, and they might just be bloating it unnecessarily.
Well, you being full of crap and that information are really two separate facts right now, but I digress.
Of course you do. All right. Why would there we go. All right. First up, coming from Austin Ryder, a local player. Which of the Earth X chases, excluding Captain Marvel, do you think will be the most expensive in the long term? Flat out cost is so hard to just define. I feel Venom. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like the Venom, Captain America Venom, is going to be the one that really skyrockets out of the gates. But long term will depend on what happens in the next rotation. Because when he says long term, it's like what's going to hold its price for the longest. I feel like Captain America might continue to hold if monsters continue to puke themselves out after the one rotation, the next rotation after this one. But that's kind of my thought on it. Mike.
I say him especially because of the fact that we do have Golden Age formats and stuff out there, so monster will always be useful. Anything that turns a generic keyword into a name keyword is always going to be a value in this game into the future. What will really affect how much of a value is actually just going to be what his what's the right word? What his actual rarity is. I know he's a chase, but you know what I mean? Some chases are more common chases than other chases. So we'll have to see how common or uncommon this Captain chase is in relation to the other chases. That will have an effect on his long-term value, because if there's a lot of them out there, well, then the value will taper off a bit eventually. But I think Captain Venom, without a doubt, again, turning generic theme into named theme, I can't imagine anybody else holding their value like he will.
All right, Jay.
Other than that, I don't see them holding quite as much value because they're just mostly pretty casual. I think other than Captain Venom, the next best one is definitely the Black Panther, who also has the benefit of Black Panther hype, and then the new map, which particularly works well with him, and then on top of that, the upcoming set. So I feel like if there's some sort of Wakanda future, he is definitely a part of it. So Wakanda keyword future in addition to the map, I should say. So I would say he's definitely second. Otherwise, the rest of them are pretty even as far as I can tell.
Cool. All right. So next up in the Facebook. So yeah, I think the general consensus is Venom Captain America holds a price for a long time. All right, next up, Adam Cole. What type of team will win the Detroit area rock qualifier this weekend? This being the charity tournament we were talking about. Will it be a pizza-face based team? Well, I don't think it's going to be my team unless I end up trying a little harder than expected. Do I take this chance to pick on Adam and say, your team isn't going to win, stop trying? Or do I just let it go and...
Let it go.
I'll let it go. What type of team will win? I feel like there's going to be something to be said for something that has longevity. So I think there's going to be some level of hard to kill team that kind of pops up and slogs it out. Though, I mean, who knows? Tyler Spee's monster team might make a return, or some level of monster team might show up as well. Mike, what do you think? Actually, I'm going to get Jay's opinion first before you.
Yeah, do Jay.
Yeah, Jay.
It's a weird local. Well, it's hard to say how many people are going to be there and what area, because normally there's Eternal Games events, pretty much everybody is coming, but then there's that other qualifier in Kentucky, so that might hurt numbers and attendance a little bit. And then we have like just really weird but good people like George, who are just going to do whatever they want anyway. George Masu. And Scott is weird. Scott Crampton. Our locals are weird. I don't know. Their locals are. I don't think it's really an easy to predict, but in general, like I like Hard to Kill right now, and there's enough variation within that archetype. Like there could be, you could play Black Panther, you could play Goblin King, you could play Unimind Lockjaw. Like within the realm of Hard to Kill, there's so much that it's hard to not go for that. And even Tyler Spees, to some degree, because like even if you kill one Colossal, you've scored 10 points. Good for you. So. And a million pogs. So, yeah, I'll have to agree with Jason, which is really weird and painful.
Hey! Sometimes I know what I'm talking about, Jay.
What, Monster Swarm is good? I guess.
I said sometimes.
Sometimes.
It doesn't necessarily mean about a specific thing right now. I just said sometimes I'm... I know what I'm talking about. All right.
Get your ego and check Jason.
I'm all over the place here. I don't have an ego. He's a planet. I don't have that. Whoops. I'll get rid of that. What happened here? I had a link. I had Facebook open. And all of a sudden I've lost track of all of my windows. Sorry, guys. The professionalism is totally real here. I promise.
Worst host
ever. Absolutely. And we have terrible co-hosts here too, apparently.
What? Hey, look, I'm opening windows for you here. I'm looking for things here.
Andrew Fairweather. All right, you know what happens? If you ask me a trolly question, I troll back. And he wants to know, why do ducks like to quack? See, here's the thing. We live in this weird world, and I don't think ducks are actually ducks. And I think ducks are actually humans who've been transformed into weird bird creatures, and they don't actually quack. They're the humans attempting to talk. But unfortunately, these vocal cords on these avian creatures only allow a to come out when somebody tries to talk through it. Therefore, these are not ducks liking to quack. They are humans attempting to talk. You brought this on yourself, Mr. Andrew Fairweather.
And as a reminder, recently the government of Canada legalized the devil's lettuce. I'm just saying, 'cause that was some crazy stuff.
And you know what? I am not a vegetarian.
We know. All
right.
That's scary.
But next up, Mr. Andrew Fairweather does have two serious questions that he put in there. First one, so does Pulse Wave doesn't draw lines of fire, question mark. So stealth blocks line of fire. Okay, there's a little bit of confusion on that. I think I'm going to clarify this, and it's the order of operations on Pulse Wave changed drastically, where in the first case, when you initially check whose powers don't work, you're not drawing a line of fire. You check the range, which is the half range of the character. Then you turn off all the powers of everybody in that range. But then you draw lines of fire to make the attack. Am I right, Jay?
Yeah, you have your range, then turn off powers?
Yeah. So you have the range, turn off all the powers in the range, but then when you make the attack, you do determine lines of fire for what's getting hit by the pulse wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. And this one's specific for you, Mike.
Yes, I read that one.
One more serious question. Thoughts on Polar the movie? I know the guys in the office really seem to like it.
It's a hot mess. I've mentioned before, it was the hardest thing I've ever worked on in my career. I was left a little bit scarred. The entire crew has PTSD. We call it polar traumatic stress disorder. I'm really glad how my stuff looks. My props look great. Those laser gloves look great. All that stuff worked out. All the guns and whatever. We had fun. The whole SIM card phone thing was great. So, I have worked on a bunch of things that weren't so great, but there's moments. It's an interesting thing. I think people will remember moments of it, and I'm always grateful that this is what I get to do for a living. I'm grateful the universe has allowed me to earn money playing with guns and swords and explosions and weird stuff like that. So it's interesting. I think everybody should watch it, of course, and clap when my name comes up at the end. And but it's a bit of a hot mess. Make sure you have a wobbly pop or something before you watch it.
Oh, so this is a drinking Netflix movie. Okay.
Yeah.
I love those. Jay, have you had a chance to see Polar yet?
I saw it on Netflix when I was browsing. I was not in the mood particularly at the moment, but I'm sure I will watch it within the next week or so. So ask me again on Monday or next Metal Lab if we have time after the set review. Oh, God.
Yeah, next week's set review. Right. I don't know if we're gonna handle anything not HeroClix related next week. So this is a heads up, a preview into next week's Metal Lab. We're going to be going piece by piece on Earth X. That always takes a while. We'll try to speed through as best we can, and I do try to turn my auctioneer voice on for that. So we'll see what we can do to streamline that whole process. Probably I think I want to try to race through the commons and uncommons. I'm going to
try and have an afternoon nap.
All right. So that said, we're going to move into the live chat questions. If you have any questions, put in capital letters question. If you're watching live, if you're watching in the archives, love you. All right. So this question comes from Ricky Yell. You guys aren't up to date on wrestling right now, right? All right, so I'm going to handle the wrestling questions right out of the gates right now. The first one is, will Brock Lesnar drop the Raw title to Seth Rollins at WrestleMania? I mean, it makes the most sense. It depends on how his tests go with the USDA. Because he's trying to get back into the UFC, but he's contracted to wrestle to WWE. I don't know. It's a long story. But I'm going to say, yeah, I think Seth Rollins is going to take it. And Sun and Moon Bonkowski wants to know, what are your thoughts on Seth Rollins winning the Royal Rumble? I mean, the guy works really hard, and he's doing a really good job, and I think he deserved it. There we go. All right. Wrestling's out of the way, guys. You're welcome. The wrestling portion of the podcast is over. All right. Next up. Okay, now this one is a little bit of a vague one, but I got clarification from him in the chat. Sun and Moon Bounkowski also wants to know if we have any tips for new HeroClix and Dice Masters players. Now, for Dice Masters players, because he pulled out the Avengers Infinity, play through the rule book, learn the rules, because the Dice Masters is blessed with starters, and starters have rule books. So go through the rule books, understand, play a couple of sample games, get a friend, play some of the sample games, the playthroughs that they have themselves, so you understand the flow of the game, and then start buying some extra packs and build a collection. Pay attention, the cards, the dice will work on multiple cards, so pay attention to that fact and choose the cards correctly based on what you want your team to go on. But as far as HeroClix is concerned, that new Earth X is going to be a starter. So I say grab that specifically. And then when you're starting out, go to events not with the expectation to win, but with the expectation to learn, and especially sealed events. You're going to find you will be blessed with a large collection before you know it. Because I don't want a lot of commons and uncommons, and if there's a new player, is he getting them? Even some rares in a lot of cases, I just end up getting a sizable collection, so I do pass that off. So those are my brand new players to HeroClix getting into the game. My kind of quick tips. Mike, did you want to tack anything on top of the HeroClix portion of that?
No, I think you really kind of covered it. Starter sets are great. Definitely going to events is great. You learn by playing. One of the things I'll say about that is, again, just to add to it, is accept the fact that you're going to have those losses, and instead of sort of being overwhelmed by the loss, pay attention to what's happening creating the loss. That's where you learn, right? Like you'll see these tips and strategies. Watch what these players are doing to win, how they position their figures, the things that they're figuring out. And especially if you're lucky enough to play against somebody who will talk with you when they're playing the game. Definitely, I encourage any new player, if you're playing me, ask me to. I'll talk about what I'm thinking as I'm placing figures. We can talk it out together. It's the best way to learn is to talk about how you're going to accomplish things in the game. Don't play it... what's the word? Don't play to like hide. Ooh, I'm going to hide what I'm planning to do, and I'm going to try and trick and deceive my opponent. No, if you're new, like be very open with it, and then they'll help talk with you. And in fact, most good players will help you not make mistakes. Like you might be about to running shot, but you actually don't have the range you think you have because you're maybe not having movement or some beginner mistake. So just be vocal when you're playing the games. Admit that you're new, and accept the fact that you're going to lose some games early on. Use them as learning experiences.
And Jay?
It's almost like if I go last, I don't have anything to add at that point. So, no.
All right. Next up, let's get this back in focus. All right. What are your favorite maps, old or new? Old, Krakoa. New, I love the Iron Man map, even though I haven't actually taken a good look at it because it adds pogs. Mike?
New, do you mean new coming out or just new current legal?
Yeah, like modern legal.
Modern legal, Wakanda Forever, which actually covers both the new Wakanda that's coming and the already existing Wakanda. I think are both great maps. Old school, I have to give a mad shout out to the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning. That map, for some reason, always brought me good luck. I've won a lot of tournaments on that map, finished in top 6 at Canadian Nationals a couple of times on that map. So yeah, Jean Grey School for Higher Learning. I use that map so much that all the fold spots on it are holes now. Like it's actually worn away in all those spots, and like it's semi-translucent, the map. I've used it so much. So that's coming, and those are mine.
All right. Jay?
For modern, I like most of the Batman set ones. All the bonuses are pretty cool. Both the Star Trek ones are good from the OP kit. The Amok Time Underground. Bifrost is always fun when you have mind control. Both Wakandas are going to be good. And for Rock, the Powell Farm is just a little bit of everything except for blocking, but I don't think that's that relevant these days anyway. And for old, the oldest map I have and will play still is the JSA Museum, although I've said before that even for local tournaments, I just prefer to play on modern maps as much as possible to get a feel for them for the little competitive I do play. So,
all right, cool. Nolan Lake, with the next rotation, which figures will you be sad to see leave and happy to see go, Sam Cap? I'm a Ninja Turtles fan, but I'm not going to miss the Shredders, even though I have used them in the past, and I do like the idea of not having to roll dice. I do have to accept that eventually you have to roll dice, and I will be most sad to see Devil Dinosaur go. Jay, your thoughts?
Devil Dinosaur is also one of those, and the Green Lantern from Joker's Wild are the sad ones. Yeah, Sam and Shredders are the typical example. I will not be sad to see the theoretical Hawkeye hits everybody go away, and what DC we're even losing. Nothing that I hate to play against that's DC with the one set that's going.
All right, and Mike?
Happy to see Hawkeye go. Happy to see Joker go. Happy to see Shredders go. Oh my god. I will, if I owned some, I'd throw them places.
Into my box where I keep my turtle stuff?
Yeah, right. Sad to go? That's actually a really hard question. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything that I've played with regularity that's actually getting retired out right now. I guess I'll just say some figures from maybe the Spear of Spider-Man set, only because we now have so many more new Spider-Man family figures. So to see that extra pool of figures get retired out will be kind of sad to me, but Yeah, I'm to be honest, like I can't think of anything. Let's you know what,
Venom
let's
Pool
just
is one for you.
Nah, I never really played him because I didn't really have him, and he was somebody I borrowed. You know what I'll say? I'll say Super Rare Moon Knight from Avengers Defenders
Yeah.
because I did love that figure. So really, that's the only thing I can think of. I haven't played him in a while, but I do love that figure. So
All right. So next up, Sun and Moon Boncast. You're very active in the chat, yeah. So it's exciting to see somebody super enthusiastic. Mike, he wants to know what your favorite HeroClix character is.
favorite HeroClix character, like figure itself.
Sure.
Oh, it's got to be Trinity War Batman. I think
Yeah.
everybody knows how much I love Trinity War Batman. Oh my
I think
God.
I think yours is the only one with a loose dial.
Yeah, it's always loose, much like me.
Oh, hey-oh! All right, looks like we're coming up at the end here. Mr. Chase Fields. I don't know if actually I assumed very quickly on that one. Chase Fields wants to know, how do you guys feel about the Earth X title cap in sealed or in constructed? He's one of those figures I think for constructed is going to have a very specific team. So he's not like a gotta have him kind of figure, but there is a team that can use him. As far as sealed, okay. He's got really good solid stats, and he'll probably get some life out of your team. So, yeah. Anything you want to add there, Jay?
No. I mean, there's not that much mind control for him to mitigate in the set, but I guess if you're playing against the Skull, you never know. More attacks are good. Yeah, just overall, for sealed, you should be playing your super rares anyway. And for constructed, he's on that Avengers nonsense team, and also just general action after taxi. So yeah, he definitely has a place in both of those environments. So
okay, and Mike.
Yeah, you can never discount action after taxi. I'm pretty sure that Pedro mentioned him in his article that was on Majestics today. He was talking about a lot of figures in the set, and he mentioned that cap and after action after carry. Personally, I gotta admit, I still kind of like the con exclusive Earth X cap better than this cap. I like him better for his points and what he has. Title characters are great, and he's got a lot of stuff he can do, so I can't discredit that. But if I had to pick between the two, I still lean towards the con exclusive one over this one.
Fair enough. It's yeah, cool figure. All right, that's it. Mike, Jay, thank you guys very much for today's episode. We even got a whole lot of time talking about just the pre-releases, so we have that. Look forward to next week where we talk about the entirety of the Earth X set and go from there. I do want to take a second to thank our sponsors over at majesticcg.com/marriedwithclicks. Sorry, we got some extra questions that kind of came in there. Yeah, we'll swing them. All right, why not? First up, the HeroClix World Champion Tyler Spees has a question. He wants to know, are you planning on playing your Monster Swarm again? And if so, will you be running Captain Venom? Not this weekend because Captain Venom won't be out. But, yeah. Yeah, I am. I mean, honestly, I think he's going to have to replace the Goblin King as my source of prop, because theme prop becomes my source, I think.
Like I'll be honest, I'm thinking of Monster Swarms right now, and I was never thinking of Monster Swarms. So
yeah. And then from there, Matt Thomas, how does everyone intend on dealing with the new Daredevil? I'm gonna throw dice at him. It's my best option, right? I don't know, Mike. How do you deal with it? How do you plan on dealing with it?
I mean, really, that's it. Like, honestly, I've been paying attention to dice a little more after seeing the figure. I see lots of 6s come up in pack rolls. A 6 and a 1 is a 7, which is a 58% chance of coming up on dice. It comes up a lot on rolls. I don't know if he's going to be as runaway maybe as people think. And then the other side is Trelane. We know Trelane is out there. You can make a cosmic theme team, get Trelane on there, and just have a 6 sitting there on Trelane and wait for that opportunity to drop it in. Even better, maybe you've rolled a 6 and a 1 and switched the 1 into a 6, and now you've got a crit hit on this guy. the other problem too for the Daredevil is you can't re-roll those 6s. So you're just hoping for a 6 to come up because nobody can change that number other than something like Trelane. So that's it. Yeah, roll dice and Trelane.
All right. Jay?
I mean, yeah, you can prop yourself into 6s.
Yep.
If you don't roll the 6s, you can still roll and see if they get him. It's not worth playing Trelane to counter build him though. Like, you're paying 50. Like Trelane's good, but like,
I'm not saying play him to counter build him, but what I'm saying is you can make a good Cosmic team, and you can make a good Cosmic team that has room to fit Trelane on him, that can already be helping the Cosmic team, and then has the potential to use that die against a Daredevil.
I'm saying hard countering is not always a good idea in competitive HeroClix. Especially if you just roll the 6 against Daredevil, you have to waste it before you can actually re-roll the die again to get it. So it's in general, it's not worth hard countering one particular character. I think that although the odds of rolling the 6 are good in the context of a whole tournament, and if you're making a cut, like, yeah, if you're playing an event and you're playing a top 8 cut, that's 6 rounds, right? Like, assuming you get all the way to the end. So yeah, there'll be random games where Daredevil dies quicker, but then there'll just be games where your opponent just can't seem to roll those 6s. So I think he's still a pretty good play overall. I'm not that worried about playing against him either, because there's just so many attacks to be made. Like, if he does damage, okay, I'm going to retail against him with Groot. That's going to be 11 on a 17 or 11 on a 16. Maybe I get the 6s, and then I get a flurry out of it. Like, I'm not really concerned, especially because you don't even need to hit him, right? Like, you can even have a random 0-point character just make the attack. You get 1 6. You're like, okay, you don't care about damage that much for him, because none of his power sets are so bad that it makes or breaks the game, and he's not doing so much damage. He's just a hard-to-kill ID battery, mostly, unless you're adding equipment onto him. So basically, I wouldn't worry about it that much. But there are going to be... I mean, I'm making Undying teams with him, especially with certain ones retiring. So he's something to consider, but I don't think he's so scary, really.
Fair enough. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So, once again, I thank our sponsors over at MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. Thanks for in the middle of the ad read linking me that,
I didn't think you would see it, sorry.
And, yeah, so check them out at MajesticCCG.com. It's your one-stop for all things HeroClix. Check out the Apex Insiders Club. $3 a month gives you access to all these great brains in the game of HeroClix, including, as Jay mentioned, George Masu, who's just a great thinker, Adam Friedman, Paris Gordon. There's a lot of really good players who donate their time and brains to the article section. I'm a not irregular article writer, so sometimes you'll find some of my fun stuff, but Jay is a more regular than I am writer. His fringe articles are fantastic reads and always worth a little bit of your brain to read. Also want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. Your support goes a long way, and we really appreciate any support that we get through there. With that said, charity tournament this weekend. Lots of stuff coming up around. WKO's around the corner. These pre-releases are worth your time. Get a little bit of practice, guys, because practice will make your teams better. Have a good night, everybody.